I hung around the house for 3 months after I got back from Korea, doing nothing.
Exemption for the border between North and South Korea, a delay in the treaty's implementation, and the whole smart mines issue.
Some Chinaman took them from me in Korea, but I went out and achieved anyway.
Who are you taking with you to Korea?
We're not in Korea, Mr. Kowalski.
Remember the people who brought you Korea.
Together in Korea.
I'm using it to blow up North Korea.
Here are your communication devices for Korea.
She stayed in Korea while he did 2 tours in South America.
Yesterday it was Korea, today Vietnam, tomorrow Thailand, the Philippines, and then maybe Europe.
To keep my country so well nourished despite the harsh and unjust economic sanctions imposed on North Korea by the United States. That the war in North Korea was entirely the fault of the United States.
Damn!
Grandma smells like Korea.
Everyone in North Korea will be watching.
How long ago was Korea?
4 men in Korea.
Captain.
When you are returned with your patrol to Korea, and you make your way to command headquarters, what will be the first duty you will undertake?
Iraq, China, North Korea, Indonesia, Israel.
Plus 1 more in Korea.
We have a nice little game of solitaire and a nice long chat about the good old days in Korea.
3 weeks from tonight, I will be traveling to Pyongyang, North Korea.
Apparently, Dave Skylark will be interviewing the dictator of North Korea.
Al-Qaeda, Russia, South Korea.
Mind control may be necessary, which I've been practicing in Kenya, Korea.
North Korea or Iran.
Douglas.
In the forthcoming Summer Games in Seoul, Korea.
So the earliest mention of the word zombie was in a memo from Camp Humphreys in South Korea.
Dave, as you have seen for yourself, we have a great bounty of food in North Korea.
I sound like somebody with a big belly telling the stories about Korea.
I'd see Eddie Robinson and everyone like him dead if it'd bring back one boy from Korea.
Just why they went all the way to Korea.
Strategic defense of South Korea.
Major Marco is suffering a delayed reaction to 18 months of continuous combat in Korea.
My family is in Korea and they think it's too far for me to travel alone.
I got my cousin in South Korea done sent me 2 knockoffs.
You mean North Korea?
Latin America? Korea?
I lost a brother in Korea.
Look, Doctor, this ain't Korea or China or wherever you come from.
The war in Korea was over.
He was in Korea, has a master's in international relations from Harvard.
For Woody, it got bad after Korea.
You killed in Korea.
Yes.
He's one of the world's top arachnologists. As such, enjoys pretty much unrestricted access to the borders of North Korea.
I'm from the office of Suk Young Park, Secretary of Communications for the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea.
If you'll direct your attention to said screens, I believe that's North Korea.
We got contingency plans for nukes in North Korea, anthrax in our mail, we got fluoride in our water. But what happens if the next Superman...
Hawkeye's gonna sign him up to make a personal appearance during all the camps in Korea.
We have many fat children in North Korea.
What about the deteriorating situation in North Korea?
As you know, North Korea has a 1 million man standing army less than 50 kilometers from our capital.
We lost Korea and now our nukes?
Inside North Korea.
Or Korea, somewhere in there. My parents are in Korea for 3 months. So.
You made an exception to me when you brought me from Korea.
Because, my boy, we want Korea, but the Japanese will insist on fighting us for it.
Total number of male persons in these families who are old enough to have served in the Vietnam War, Korea, or World War II.
I heard you was going off to Korea.
You didn't know why North and South Korea were different countries.
We'll pay for all the damage the Super Pig did in Korea.
The Supreme Leader will grant a 1-hour interview to Mr. Skylark from inside North Korea.
You want that Adidas suit from South Korea?
North Korea is a failed state.
They've seized the region by the Chinese and North Korea borders.
North Korea? Get out of Korea and forget about Japan.
Which readjusted the War Powers Act to allow the executive to respond to state-sponsored terrorism, like that of Iraq, Libya, North Korea, for instance. But
3rd generation West Point, top of its class, Korea, airborne, about 1,000 decorations, etc., etc.
We have learned Ulysses Claw plans to sell the vibranium to an American buyer in South Korea tomorrow night.
I suppose you served in Korea.
You get me into North Korea, I'll take care of him for you.
My dad brought it back from Korea.
Truth is, if I were in Korea, I'd be expected to be there when he died.
We were supposed to sandbag a train in Korea.
You want us to assassinate the leader of North Korea?
Yes.
I am the supreme leader of North Korea.
But if you were in Korea, you'd go along with it.
We were in Korea, and 1,000 screaming gooks came across our line.
We just lost South Korea.
And Mrs. Kim, a wonderful widow from Korea.
North Korea, Russia. I have a Mendez everywhere.
The Times printed about North Korea.
Volcanic ash from China or Korea under its claws.
He lives in North Korea.
Don't you know that the United States has a more incarcerated people per capita than in North Korea?
As Dean of Freshmen, I have welcomed students from all over the world. From Korea, from Rome, Istanbul.
I requested permission to bomb the Yalu bridges to keep the Chinese out of Korea.
And now that we've authorized military operations above the parallel, do you include North Korea in that estimate?
North Korea.
They're the most important targets in all of Korea.
We hear there's some kind of conciliatory intervention between North and South Korea.
You've never even been to Korea.
North Korea and Al-Qaeda working together.
Even in North Korea.
By the way, did you find out who betrayed you in North Korea?
Thank you, sir, but what does Russia need Korea for?
There is an abortionist from Korea.
Golf is not yet the national game of Korea, eh?
The team is in North Korea.
John and me go back a long way together, before Korea even.